Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja, and in this segment today we are going to analyze about the critical information infrastructure. Now this topic is of extreme significance from the perspective of course prelims and from the perspective of mains. GS mains paper 3 is the main one, and of course it can have a spanning impact over GS mains paper 2 as well. So these are the many topics that we are going to discuss. Let us start with the news. Now why are we even discussing critical information infrastructure? Because the Ministry of Electronic and Information Technology, it had issued a notification dated 16th of June 2022, which says that the IT section of ICICI Bank and other banks such as HDFC, these are critical information infrastructure, because in case if the IT database of these banks come under siege, or if any enemy or an outside unwanted entity gets a hold of that infrastructure database, it can wreak havoc over the economy. As an overall impact, economy will be weakened. So first of all, we need to know about the notification. This notification says that IT resources of private sector lender, these are critical infrastructure under which section? Section 70 of the Information Technology Act. Under this act only, the government can declare any section, any infrastructure, information infrastructure as critical in nature, because it is very critical in the seamless and smooth working of an economy or the polity or the national security. It says that this particular notification, it entails which section? Core banking solution, which is a one-stop 24/7 solution provided by the banks to ensure that customers have every possible digital banking facility at their fingertips. Okay. It also includes, of course, real-time gross settlement and national electronics fund transfer, comprising structured financial messaging server. So this particular section, IT section, it contains a gamut of information with respect to the digital transaction, digital information, you can say, digital database, which is very important for the working of the economy. And this notification authorizes, of course, under the IT Act of 2000, it says authorizes the designated employees authorized by ICICI Bank, authorized team members of contractual managed service providers, or third-party vendors who have been authorized by banks for need-based access. Okay, so who all can access? This is also given in the notification. Also, any consultant, regulator, government official, auditor, stakeholder, which are authorized by the banks, who are authorized by the banks on case-to-case basis to access the IT resources of the lender. So you see that this notification is very definitive in terms when it comes to who all can access. So this is the level of security. So IT Act of 2000 says that critical information infrastructure are actually computer resources, because first of all, we are talking about here the digital economy. The first thing is that, and it says computer resources, the incapacitation or destruction, the non-working or complete destruction of which shall result in an impact on national security, economy, and public health or safety. So these many regions, if they get impacted by the destruction or incapacitation of any infrastructure, information infrastructure, these will be termed as critical information infrastructure. And similarly, for IT section of banking companies, it's important that we save and ensure that it remains private. The database of the transaction remains private in nature when needed. Database, IT network or communication infrastructure as CII to protect the digital assets. So if any country, if two countries are at war with each other, they will try to incapacitate the other country with respect to the seamless working of those economies or polity or national security. If I have to get hold of any country's capabilities, I will try to target their critical information infrastructure such as power grids, such as railways, if it is totally working on the digital arena. So these are the many critical information infrastructure. So it also, you see this particular diagram shows you, it includes food and grocery, banking and finance, defense and national security, the satellite network, of course, health, like we have the digital mission with respect to health infrastructure as well now, water, communication, transport, education, research and innovation, space, data cloud, energy. So nowadays everything is so digitally intertwined that it is almost impossible to now differentiate between what is important digitally for our lives and what is not. Everything is so entangled. Okay, so what is the need to protect our assets, digital assets? First, power generation and distribution is becoming more complex and connected than ever before, especially for India, which wants to ensure that rural areas are also connected with respect to power generation. Vulnerability of critical infrastructure and technical failures is a real concern among security specialists and insurers, specifically in the current volatile world, when we see cyber wars are becoming a new tool for weaponizing the countries. Energy, transportation, public service, telecommunication, and critical manufacturing sectors, these are the main targets of hacktivists. Okay, and of course, cyber war is something that we can never ever rule out the possibility of cyber wars, because nowadays big data is something. Why are we securing our data? Because we do not want the other countries to know what our vulnerabilities are. Information is power. Okay, moving on, if we say that what is the scenario of India with respect to digital penetration, there were 658.0 million internet users in India as of January 2022. It also, of course, includes the government authorities. India's internet penetration rate stood at 47% of the total population at the start of 2022, and internet users in India increased by 34 million. That means 5.4% between 2021 and 2022. This is a huge jump. Moving on, if we talk about the cyber crime and cyber warfare that has been enraged against India, you see the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team reported that more than 2.12 lakh cybersecurity incidents have happened this year, that is February 2022. And in comparison, certain said that 14.2 lakh cybersecurity related incidents happened total in last year. So you see, just for a short span of time, this amount of cyber attacks have been actually braved by India. You see, since 2015, we are continuously seeing a rise in the, cyber attacks. And between 2019 and 2020, the attacks have risen because India is a country which is having a huge potential with respect to digital penetration. But we do not have a proper deterrence and cyber offensive for it, to protect our digital assets. So that is what India is trying to work on. Now, in 2007, a wave of denial of service attack. That means whenever I'm asking for a service through my computer, it will get denied. So this is a denial of service attack. It was allegedly done from Russian IP address, and it was on Estonian banks, government bodies, ministries and parliament as well as media outlets. Now this was in the wake of, because Estonia decided to remove the figure of a statue of some very prominent Russian icon and to a lesser place of prominence. After that, this was seen. This was one of the world's biggest attacks that the world has ever seen back then. Now in 2013, Iranian hackers, they breached the Bowman Avenue Dam in New York and gained control of the floodgate. Even our nuclear arsenal is not very safe if we do not have proper digital deterrence. Any enemy can get a hold of our nuclear armaments and it can wreak havoc for India. On October 12, 2020, when of course India was battling the pandemic like the rest of the world, electric grid supply to Mumbai, it suddenly snapped, hitting the mega cities, hospitals, trains and businesses for hours. And this was allegedly done, according to US, it was allegedly done by China. Galwan attacks, remember. So you see that India is also very vulnerable to such kind of attacks, specifically if we have a neighbor like China. Moving on, of course, the Indian government denied such things. Moving on, what is the scenario in India with respect to protection of critical infrastructure, information infrastructure? The National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center is the nodal agency for taking all measures to protect the nation's critical information infrastructure. What is the year and month of its establishment? January 2014. And it has the mandate to guard critical information infrastructure from unauthorized access. Any sort of modification can't be done, usage cannot be done, disclosure, disruption, incapacitation or distraction. So it's a very comprehensive mandate. Also, monitor and forecast national level threats to critical information infrastructure is its mandate. Also, policy guidance and expertise sharing also, plus situation awareness for every warning or alert. Remember the name. So there are certain issues that still remain with respect to India's big data. We generate a lot of data in our day-to-day lives. Even if we are filling a form online, we are generating data. So first of all, awareness has to be generated. Next, there is an information sharing hesitancy with respect to private sector. The private sector is very hesitant when it comes to sharing of information with the government. The government does it by twisting the hand, that is another thing. But first, on a voluntary basis, it becomes very difficult. So we do not know what kind of information is very critical in nature to have a safeguarded, right? First that. There is a lack of deterrence on India's part. We do not have a good cyber defense system as well as good cyber offense system. If some country attacks our digital assets, we do not have the proper avenues to attack their digital asset. That is the second issue. Atmanirbharta and hardware and software issues, because we are dependent on different countries with respect to hardware as well as software provision. So first of all, we need to ensure that we make our own software, we make our own hardware as well. Deep web and hacktivists. Hacktivists are upgrading their abilities every day. Deep web is something that you see, this is an iceberg, okay? The tip of an iceberg is Google, Facebook, other websites, Wikipedia, e-commerce, blogs, YouTube. These are the things that are visible to us that we use on our day-to-day lives. Not a lot of danger is present over here. It has its own share of, you can say, danger, but the most dangerous is deep web and dark web. Deep web, this is a place which very few people have an access to, and this is the arena of crime. So deep web contains net banking, research papers, very clandestine in nature, secretive, medical records, private forums, networks, hidden wiki. Then anonymous, illegal information that also contains, of course, terrorist, money laundering for terrorism, Silk Road, so TORs, many things are there. So you see that we are just using the tip of the iceberg. We have to control the lower, unseen part of the iceberg. Boost to indigenization, because if the information will remain as far as our safety is concerned, information will remain within the four walls of Indian geographical boundaries. That will be good. Cyber offensive and defense protocols. We have to develop defense protocols, very comprehensive defense protocols. For that, we need to ensure that private sector is engaged with the public. Startups shall be boosted with respect to research in deep and dark web, so that we know that what kind of defense we can do, what kind of offense we can do, what kind of offensives we have to be ready for, okay? And global collaboration with respect to, because hacking is not something that is our sole concern, the sole concern of this India only, our country only. This is the concern of many countries around the globe, specifically in a volatile world where Russia and China, they are gaining edge with respect to hacking, alleged hacking. So moving on, let's talk about a question. Let's see the question. New age technologies have made critical infrastructure protection a major cyber security priority for India. We have to discuss. I will talk about those who have answered my previous question, which I asked yesterday, in the upcoming segment. So stay tuned, okay? Thank you so much for watching.